Hello, everybody from Smith School of Business. It's so great to have you online for today's webinar about the Masters of International Business program. We are going to be doing this webinar a little bit differently than we've done in the past, in the fact that I am here with my colleague, Anne-Marie Lehman, who is our Assistant Director for all of our projects. Today's webinar, we're actually going to be talking about what we call the 901 consulting project. It's one of the core requirements of the Masters of International Business program that all students have to do. And instead of instead of Anne-Marie and I providing all kinds of content and slides, we're actually just going to have a discussion in regards to what is the 901 consulting project, what sort of skills you might be able to develop while going through this project. Is it a team-based project? Is it an individual-based project? And just provide you with some information that will hopefully help with the decision for applying to the Masters of International Business program. Before I get right into having a conversation with Anne-Marie, I am going to just sort of go through what our agenda looks like. So again, introductions of myself and Anne-Marie. What is the Masters of International Business program here at Smith School of Business? What is the Global Consulting Project? Again, it's not going to be slides that we'll be providing. It's just going to be information that we want to share with you. I'll go through some of the program structure. As you can appreciate, this is one of the most complex programs that we offer here at Smith in regards to the fact that the way students can complete all of the degree requirements is actually very unique. I always say it's choose your own adventure because there are so many different paths that students can take. And then I'll go through what the admissions requirements look like, and we'll take any of your questions that you might have in regards to the program itself or specifically to the project. So, what is a Masters of International Business program? As I said, I think it's one of the most unique programs that we offer here at Smith. For anybody that isn't aware of where we're located, we're actually located in Kingston, Ontario. So we're at the very end of Lake Ontario, the very beginning of St. Lawrence River, and also the Rideau River system. So if you like being around water and academics, the Queens and Smith could be a spot for you to do your graduate program. The Masters of International Business program is a program that was developed for students who have an undergrad in business. So you already have a foundation in business and you're wanting to specialize within international business. What does that mean? It means that all of our core courses plus our electives have some sort of global content associated to them. So some of the core courses that students have to complete is global economy or leading global teams, global strategy. So we take it upon ourselves that our students already have the foundation of business. The big difference, we always get questions in regards to what's the difference between a Masters of International Business program compared to an MBA. An MBA, all students will be taking all of the general disciplines. So you'll be doing accounting, finance, human resources, operations management. Whereas with the MIB program, we take it into the fact that you've already done those courses in your undergrad. There's also an international exchange component to all of the degree paths that we offer at Smith. So what does that mean? If you're doing the single degree track, then you're having to do an international exchange at a partner university. If you're doing the double degree track, that means that you're with us here at Smith, typically for a year. You earn our Masters of International Business program, and then you go to a partner university and get a second degree. So typically an MSc or another Master's in Management at a partner university. I have more information about the double degrees and the single degree path in a few slides. We also offer opportunities for students to do an internship. So we are fortunate enough to get the approval a few weeks ago. So if students are wanting to gain some work experience, because we are a very early career program, what that means is you don't need to have work experience to come into the MIB program. And so we appreciate the fact that some students are wanting to earn some experience as they're going through the program. So again, we just got approval for 4 credit internship. And so what's that means that instead of doing the 6 electives that are required of your degree path, you're going down to 5 electives and actually doing for a full semester an internship at a company. So you're gaining experience as you go through the program. We're also a team-based program. So this past year, we welcomed 81 students into our program. They represented 19 different nationalities. But then us as a program office, we place everybody into a core team and you're completing your core requirements. The project that Anne-Marie and I are going to be talking about in the next slide is one of those core requirements. So you're working in a really diverse setting. You're developing your team skills as you go through the program, and you're working for a company. So if you're not interested in doing the internship, it still allows you to gain some consulting experience while going through the program. We are also case-based learning. So some students come into the program thinking that they're going to be watching and listening to a professor at the front of the classroom, just lecturing in about all the content they want you to know. But actually, our professors are wanting students to read the cases, get prepared for the classroom so that it's more of a discussion that's happening within the classroom experience and learning from one another. So as I said, we're going to change things up a little bit. So that's kind of MIB at a high level, but we really wanted to talk today about the wonderful part of our program, which is the projects. And so as I was saying, every student has to complete one of these projects in a team-based environment. And so we are very fortunate here at Smith to have Anne-Marie Lehman, who is the assistant director for our projects. She works within the Masters of International Business program, but she also works within our other graduate programs that offer these sorts of projects. And so Anne-Marie, would you like to come off the mute and just say hello?
Absolutely. Hello. I look forward to your joining the MIB program in the future. It is certainly a highlight for me to get to work with our MIB students. As Jen had said, certainly a bit of a younger demographic, less work experience. However, my my personal journey with MIB students tends to be that the group of students are, super keen, highly coachable, and a real joy to work with. So that's my impression of MIB students, and I look forward to certainly working with you going forward. As Jen already mentioned, there are internship opportunities now available for MIB students. However, another way to certainly gain work experience is through this global consulting project course. And students have leveraged this course year in and year out for quite a long time when they're in future interviews with potential employers as a reference check, perhaps through the project course advisor or the client acting as a reference in the future. It is very real world experience that you will be receiving. It just happens to be in an academic course format. So I can give a little bit of an overview for you. The course is truly designed to allow students to customize their experience. So your team will decide what that means to you. Is it industry specific? Is there a geographical component that's of interest in business in a different part of the world? Does it happen to be the skill sets that you're learning in your MIB program that you want the chance to be able to practice? These are the things that you will consider as a team on how you want to customize the experience. You will consult for a company who is dealing with a real challenge or investigate a potential opportunity for that business. So I think it's really important that any MIB student, any MIB team recognize that this is not theoretical. This is quite practical, and there's a client that is relying on you to be able to deliver sound analysis and recommendations to help their business. So it's really about applying what you're learning in the classroom to a real world situation. As I mentioned, this is very much about the practicality of what you're learning. Generally, we know MIB students are excellent at research. Now we want to take it a step further in this consulting engagement. So really, what does the research tell you? How are you going to apply it? What is the analytical decision that you're doing right now, and the recommendations that you're going to provide to a client? For our purposes, it's truly about what makes good business sense. So we're looking at it through that lens. This is done outside of class time, so you are doing it on top of everything else that you are actually going to be juggling while you're in the program.
Very good. Thank you, Anne Marie. Yeah, and to Anne Marie's point, what we're trying to do is establish a program where you are getting to work in real life experiences. And so what we have found from some of our alumni when talking to them, they really use the global consulting project within their interview process when they're trying to land a career, because they are developing team skills as they go through the program. And to Anne Marie's point, you will get introduced to the consulting project in the fall semester as you're going through to take your other core courses. A majority of the deliverables for the 901 consulting project will actually happen in the winter and summer months. And one of the core courses you'll do in the first module that we offer is leading global teams. The reason we provide you with leading global teams as a core course is because you can use the skills that you've learned in that class to help maneuver and go through with the consulting project. So Anne Marie, with that, I'm just wondering, with your experience working with the Masters of International Business students and other graduate students here at Smith, what sort of skills do you think students should think about that they'll be developing as they go through the project itself?
Absolutely. So you're right. It's very much giving the students a chance to learn on how do you manage people. It is not a simple thing at all, and there's certainly different dynamics with that. So whether it's managing expectations within your team, and as Jen said, there's certainly a course that's going to help leverage some practice with that. But now you're taking it outside of a classroom and putting it into a real project that goes over a longer duration of time. It's going to give you more of a chance to practice some of those skills. You're going to learn how to manage up. Many students will talk about that. You're managing certainly your superiors. In this case, it could be a client or a project course advisor. So learning how to manage up, learning how to manage multiple stakeholders at the same time. So certainly the client's expectations, your team's engagement initiatives, as well as the project course advisor. That's certainly a bit of a juggling act, and it's going to take you out of doing that in a classroom setting and now the practical experience on that side. Students will also talk about problem solving and building resilience, which we're certainly trying to encourage throughout the program. But this course is really leaning into that because hiccups and challenges happen in the real world. And this course is really about, as I said, a real world application, the practical application. It's not going to go smoothly all the time. So just be prepared for that. And the reality is, learning how to navigate when things aren't smooth sailing is an invaluable skill that you're going to have to develop. For example, we had a team recently who had a specific objective set by the client, which was great. And through the primary research, so surveys, interviews, things like that, to collect their data, they realized that the client was wrong. Their view on the situation was actually incorrect. And the team had to learn how to pivot. How do you communicate negative feedback to a client in a professional manner that certainly still continues to add value to the project? So I know for that team, it was invaluable. And it just happened to be something where the client's expectations actually didn't mesh with what the data was telling them. So it's quite, as I mentioned, invaluable feedback for a client to be given. And it was a real learning opportunity for the team to decide, how do you pivot? What does plan B look like? How do you communicate that feedback in a professional manner to the client? Time management is certainly of importance as well. There's a skill set in learning how to work in remote teams and to manage your time. Again, we're asking students who are used to thinking, certainly from an academic perspective, and you're all very talented academics, which is amazing. But now, what does that translate? You're working across multiple time zones, people with conflicting, time pressures themselves. What does that look like, and how are you practicing being a good teammate, for example, when it comes to the time management side? So those are some initial thoughts on that one.
Very good. Yeah, and as you're talking, I'm thinking, it's working in a really diverse team setting. So as people can appreciate, we're now working in a business environment that's very global. And so as we build out the teams, we're making sure that there is diversity in in those teams so that you get to work with different cultures and you learned how to develop your cultural intelligence skills so that you can leverage those skills when you get out into your careers. The one thing that I would say that we do at Smith is we try to provide a really safe environment. So for those skills that Anne-Marie was talking about, you feel safe about being able to provide a team member with some feedback or receive feedback. And what does that mean? Like, how do you translate the feedback that you've received? You might see it first as a negative, but it actually could be a very positive message that you're receiving because it helps you develop as a professional. It helps you develop as on a personal level. Are just some of the things that we do hear from our alumni after they've done the program. And to Anne-Marie's point as well, when you get out into your careers, you don't actually get to select who you're working with. So it's managing those opportunities and those expectations within a team environment where you don't get to select who you're working for. So I would say that's a big change from going from your undergrad into the Masters of International Business program, is that you don't get to select who's in your group. The program office actually selects who's in your team so that it does help you grow as a personal and on professional levels. So when it comes to these projects, Anne-Marie, are the companies, is it a real company that students are working for? Is it a real project that students are working on?
Absolutely. And quickly, I do want to add, in case anybody's looking at this going, oh gosh, if I have to deliver negative feedback, am I doing that without any coaching? And just furthermore to what Jen was saying, there is coaching in the delivery of these courses. You are not doing this completely on your own, though it is a team-directed course. There are multiple individuals involved in the delivery of the course, and you will receive coaching along the way. So you're not certainly doing it in a bubble without any sort of support along the way. But yes, so this is certainly a real company that has a consulting engagement, a real problem, or a potential opportunity that they are considering that you'll work with. And I can certainly let you know that the vast majority of teams will actually secure their own client for this course. And I know that becomes quite daunting many times. Students will certainly feel a bit overwhelmed with that possibility. But I can share with you that it isn't the securing of the project that is the most challenging aspect. It's really that there are more than one potential really great opportunity that the team is considering, and how do you pick the best one? So again, there is coaching for that as well. But certainly we do ask that students leverage their own network to find their own project client. There are projects made available through the program, but historically less than 25% are ever picked up by teams. So even when something is made available, the majority of teams will still find their own projects, simply because it is about the customization piece. Do the projects that are available meet with the personal goals of that team on how they want to customize this course? So the reality is most teams will actually find their own project.
And are the projects always in Canada or can they be international?
There is no geographical restrictions to this course. So by all means, you're more than welcome to work with a Canadian company. That's fine. But honestly, we get projects every year from a whole variety of geographical locations. So there's no restrictions and we can certainly work with that. Sometimes teams will pick a project based off where they call home, so to speak. There's a member of the team that happened to maybe do an internship previously or has some family networks, contacts within a specific location that just doesn't happen to be in Canada. Or perhaps on your exchange while you're traveling, you're able to secure a client, or the nature of the project leverages the fact that you happen to be in a physical geographical location that helps with some of the research that you're going to conduct. So there's a whole variety of reasons that teams will select a project. And the good news is location does not impact your ability to pick the project. So we've seen it all.
Yeah, and I would also say that it's my experience that we actually have alumni that are coming back with projects in the companies that they're working in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have repeat clients. Honestly, the work that's done, it adds value. I know we've made this point, but I'll say it again. This is a real client, a real business, and they need your help. It is free consulting that you're offering because it is an academic course, so you cannot charge a fee for doing it. There's tremendous value to a client when it comes to that. Maybe it's not a large multinational organization, it certainly can be, but maybe it's a smaller organization or a not-for-profit that desperately needs the help. They just don't have the resources.
Yeah. And then my last question for you before we move on can you give a few examples of different projects that you've seen come through the MIB program that students have been able to work on?
Absolutely. And they run the gamut. As this slide shows, we see any type of project or industry sector that's leveraged, certainly. We've had a team that's worked with a company in the firefighting industry, which is not necessarily something you see every day, where the company, the firefighting business, developed a new product, and the team was tasked with researching various geographical regions that are experiencing drought conditions with things that are happening certainly in the world right now. We're seeing more fires, forest fires being set, that their new product was environmentally safe, and they were looking for essentially expanding into new markets. So the team was making recommendations based off areas of the world that was experiencing drought conditions, where they would be a potential new client, new destination for this company to invest time in. We've also had, and you'll notice I'm not saying specific company names because we do take confidentiality very seriously, so I can't do that. NDAs are often signed, so please know that that's certainly something we take take into consideration. Another team was creating a new marketing campaign for a Canadian not-for-profit organization. I've also had a company, an airline company, where a team was working to improve their ground and operational inefficiencies that they were experiencing. We've also had a company, Caribbean juice beverage company, who was seeking recommendations to make their business much more sustainable. And the team was creating a business case to replace the use of plastic bottles for that business. So there's a whole variety of different types of projects, and certainly some support and coaching when it comes to the selection as well.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. I forgot to mention at the very beginning of the webinar, should you guys have any questions, feel free to put them into the question and answer. Anne Marie and myself are more than happy to answer any of your questions that you might have in regards to the MIB program or specifically to the projects. And I guess just before we move on, again, one of the complexities of the program, but I think it's actually one of the most genius things, is that any student going through the program is going to have an opportunity to develop their skills. And the consulting project that we were talking about is just one of those avenues where students can refine their consulting and their team building skills as they go through this really unique program. And it's interesting because as you're talking about some of the projects, I was thinking about a project of a family run company where uh, these individuals have bought a big piece of property in Italy, and they're asking for a team to help them turn it into a wedding venue or a celebration venue. And so some of the students were actually able to travel to Italy while they were on exchange, and go and look at the property just to give a better idea of how to help with the project. So very real experiences as you're going through the program, and it's very, very unique in regards to one of the programs that we offer here at Smith. So complexity, but I think it's also the uniqueness of this program. The next couple slides is going to look like I'm giving you all the same information. The reason the information looks the same is because it kind of gives you a snapshot of all the different ways that students can complete the program. So as we would say, now that we have the internship, so 4-credit internship built into the programming. This is sort of the old way of doing the MIB program, where you either do the single degree, which is phase 1, 2, and 3. So phase 1, everybody's with us in the fall semester. Phase 2, you go on your required international exchange. And then phase 3 is where you're finishing the consulting project that Anne Marie and I were just talking about. Year 1 and year 2 are some of our double degrees. So we have 3 double degrees where students actually would have to start at the partner universities. So Inkai, Bocconi, and Mannheim. Your first year would actually be at the partner university. Then your second year, you would follow phase 1, 2, and 3. Or if you decided on the other 8 double degrees, that's where year 2 comes into effect. This slide looks similar. However, instead of just doing the 12-month single degree, this is the slide that shows you where your internship would fit. So as you're going through the program, phase 1, so your fall semester, you're with us. Your second semester is actually doing an internship. So working for an actual company, it's a paid internship. So you're working and you're gaining some money as you're going through the program. Phase 3, you complete that 901 consulting project that we just spoke about. And then in your second fall semester with us is where you would do the international component of the program. This is just a snapshot of where does internship fit in regards to if you were to select any of the 8 partner universities where you're at the partner universities during second semester. So your first fall semester and winter semester, you're with Queens here at Smith. In the summer semester between year 1 and 2 is where you do your internship component. One caveat to this is Maastricht, which is our 16-month double degree. Students wouldn't be able to do the internship with Maastricht. And finally, this last slide shows you if you were to select a double degree at the partner university, so Mannheim and Bocconi, year 1 would be at that partner university. The summer semester between the partner university and before you get to Smith is where you would do your internship. And just a note on this, you'll see that Inkai is not on this slide. Unfortunately, with the double degree with Inkai, which is in Costa Rica, you would not be able to do the internship component to the program. Again, I completely understand that all of those slides probably looked fairly similar, but there are some nuances to the programs depending on which degree path you want to do. And again, I do firmly believe that MIB is one of the unique programs that we offer here at Smith, but it's also a unique master's in management that is offered within Canada, with so much diversity and complexity within how a student can complete the degree requirements. So you may be wondering, how do I apply? How do I stand out from the crowd? As we always say, you know, when you're going out and you're wanting to get in front of future employers, how do you stand out from the crowd? Well, a great way is to go back to school and earn a graduate degree. So our admission requirements, everything here at Smith, I would say, is very, as we would say, hands-on, and we're very client-facing services. And what I mean by that is once you start your application process for any of our graduate programs, you actually get assigned an application advisor. What their role is to do is to ensure that you're meeting all of the application requirements and deadlines to apply to any of our programs. If you applied within the Masters of International Business program, you'd be working very closely with our colleague, Carrie Fraser. She would ensure that all of the requirements and all of the documentation that is required of any applicant is getting submitted on time. And so what sort of documents are we looking for? A copy of your transcript showing that you have done an undergrad in business. That being said, if you haven't done an undergrad in business, we will still look at your application if you have an introduction to macroeconomics, accounting, finance, and marketing. Then we would ask you to submit a GMAT or a GRE with your application, and you would still be eligible to apply to the MIB program. We're also looking at, if English isn't your first language, we would look at some sort of proficiency test to allow you into the program. We're looking for 2 references. And again, because we're an early careers program, we can appreciate that not everybody will have a professional reference. So even if it's 2 academic references, that would be completely okay. A personal statement of experience. So this is where you can really highlight in regards to, you want to do the 16-month single degree option with internship. So why that program? What is so interesting about that structure? We want to see, have you ever had a global experience before? Did you do an exchange during your undergrad? Maybe you're an international student in Canada wanting to stay in Canada and diversify your academics. So it's looking at why you're interested within the MIB program. There's also a video essay where there's 2 questions that you have to answer on camera. There's another question that you have to answer, and you have to type out your answer. With any of our programs, you have to have an interview with somebody from the admissions committee. When I get on those calls, I always like to tell applicants, let's just have a conversation where we can ask you questions, you can ask us questions. We can appreciate that this isn't an investment into your future. We want to make sure that you're investing into the right program, because the last thing we want is for a student to come to Smith, get 3 weeks into into any of our programs and have them be like, oh, this is not the right program for me. I should have applied for a different program. So Carrie Fraser and all of our application advisors provide that sort of guidance and support as students are going through the application process. So your next steps, if you're interested in the Masters of International Business program, submit a copy of your resume and unofficial transcript. That will generate a conversation with you and the application advisor to ensure that it is the right program. And with that, we're at the end of our program, our webinar in regards to the consulting project. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the question and answer tab, and we will be happy to answer those questions for you. I don't see any questions coming in, so that must mean that Anne Marie and I did our job by providing you with all the information in regards to the consulting project within the Masters of International Business program. Again, we would just like to take some time just to thank you for taking some time out of your day to listen to us in regards to this really unique graduate program offering at Smith. Take care, everybody.